Hello, everyone. And so I am looking at an article, yet another one again. Hopefully, no one will take offense to the article that anybody has access to out of USA Today. So, more than 500,000 people worldwide have now died from coronavirus. And so, this is just 5 hours ago out of USA Today, Doug Stanglin. More than half a million people have now died from COVID 19 worldwide, and the death toll has doubled in just over 7 weeks. So, that grim milestone marked Sunday by Johns Hopkins University is particularly unsettling, given warnings by the health experts that the pandemic is still in infancy stage, meaning we haven't even crossed the real threshold of how bad this can really get. And it's already killed a lot of people. I mean, millions. So, as the number of confirmed cases also surpassed 10 million worldwide, health officials are bracing for the second wave of the deadly virus, likely this fall. So, they are anticipating the second wave, and that is very certain and soon. While China and Europe took the brunt of the early days of the pandemic, the virus is now raging in the US, states, Brazil, Russia, and India. The death toll surpasses 250,000 on May 4th. In a sign of new reality, the European Union is set to lift its external borders on July 1st and is weighing which countries should be allowed access to the EU member states. And so I guess these are some slides of some of the things that are happening around the world. You know, um, some of the signs, some of the things that have changed. You can see the sign saying 6 feet apart. Some places around the world, how they're operating things. I don't know if all of the photos reflect what's going on. Some do. And that's a good one because that was happening. But you see a lot of people with masks. It's just like, it just looks like that in California, all over in, some cities. You'll see people that are wearing masks when they go out. The testing centers, which they opened those back up because the virus is spreading. And this is how, I know this looks like this is in another place, but this is how California looks. Like when you go to the stores, you have to be apart and you have to, you know, stand apart. 6 feet distance. I guess everywhere has something different that they do. You know, these look like different places all over the world. Um, anyway, so the unfortunate reality is things are not getting any better in terms of the slowing of the spread. So I'm adding that in there from what we've seen and what we've heard in terms of, the reports. So those were just some slideshows. The criteria includes not only infection rates in other countries, but also how those countries are dealing with the rates, notably testing and tracing. And so against that backdrop, the EU is not expected to allow travelers from the US, Brazil, and Russia into the borders. So it's been 5 months since the first US case. So the US death toll could hit nearly 180,000 by October. And so some experts predict that the US death toll to hit nearly 180,000 by October the 1st. So, University of Washington Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation released the model Wednesday with a range of 159,497 to 213,715 deaths were nationwide. So, Institute Director Dr. Chris Murray, however, stressed that the importance of wearing a face mask, saying that the simple gesture has had a profound effect on the epidemic. That is, wearing a mask is extremely low cost, and for the individual, it provides 1/3 as high as 1/2 reduction in the risk of transmission. So he said in a video press release, but at the community level, it can save an extraordinary number of lives. So the U.S. on Saturday saw 42,597 new coronavirus cases. And so on Friday, nations recorded 45,255 cases, the highest daily count yet, as several states see dramatic increases, as well as the jump in Texas and Florida prompted the state's governors to pause reopening plans. So in the beginning, they started reopening, and they were reopening left and right, and the cases were starting to climb left and right along with it. So here in Los Angeles, the bars are now that were open are beginning to close. So Texas closes bars and limited restaurant capacity, while Florida banned drinking at bars. And so, meanwhile, health officials are possibly missing 10 coronavirus cases for every one case detected. So, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention Director Robert Redfield estimated Thursday. So, there may be people that are super spreaders, or they're walking around and they are asymptomatic and they're not aware that they actually carry the virus. Now the CDC is seeing what is, it says, basically I jumped. So let me go back. It says that they're seeing the first wave, Redfield said. So this is just the first wave, which is pretty scary because a lot of people have died, and then there's numbers climbing of people who are getting infected. And so the pandemic today looks markedly different from the outbreak 2 to 3 months ago, he said. So when many deaths were among the older or elderly people and those with underlying medical conditions, now the CDC is seeing a greater proportion of the cases diagnosed in younger people, said Dr. Jay Butler, the CDC Deputy Director of Infectious Disease and COVID-19 Response indicates, or incidents, that incident manager. And so they're seeing more cases in younger people. So the impact of deaths and hospitalizations from the increase of positive cases won't be known for weeks, for a few weeks. So younger people are less likely to succumb to the disease, and deaths in the U.S. have been decreasing. Yet significantly for the past 2 months, while cases plateaued in the same period. And so there is a plea to the younger people. Officials urge adults under the age of 40 to act more responsible to help slow the spread of this disease, COVID-19. And so new threats lurk in Europe and Asia. So despite the EU's growing confidence, the threat is far from over. For Europe, Dr. Hans-Henry Kluge, regional director of the World Health Organization, warned that 11 countries in Europe have reported a very significant resurgence of the COVID-19 cases recently. So these include Armenia, Sweden, Moldova, North Macedonia, Azerbaijan, Kazakhstan, Albania, Bosnia, Herzegovina, and Kyrgyzstan. I may not be pronouncing that right. So these are other countries in Europe. Ukraine, Kosovo. He said, so these are the places where they're seeing the resurgence of COVID-19. So he said that health systems could be pushed to the brink if the increased transmission of the virus goes unchecked. So in Asia, India confirmed coronavirus cases crossed 500,000 marked Saturday, jumping by one-day record of 18,552 infections. The death count rose to above 15,500. These are high numbers from how it started out. It used to be like you would see 100, 1,000, and you know when it was first starting out. Now you're seeing it's in the thousands and into the millions now. It's really has taken off. And so China, which spawned the original coronavirus, reported an uptick in the new coronavirus cases a day after the nation's CDC said it expects an outbreak in Beijing to be brought under control soon. So the National Health Commission said that Saturday that 21 cases had been confirmed nationwide in the latest 24-hour period, including 17 in the nation's capital. So city officials have temporarily shut down a huge wholesale food market where the virus spread widely, and reclosed schools and locked down some neighborhoods. That's how bad it is in some areas. We haven't opened schools here in California of Los Angeles because it's just too risky, because the numbers are really climbing, and I'm adding this in there. It's not in the article, but I'm telling you what I've seen and what I've experienced. A lot of the places that were opening left and right, now they have rules to close or have a limited amount of people. So South Korea has reported, back to the article, it says 51 newly confirmed cases of the coronavirus as fresh clusters continue to emerge in the densely populated Seoul area. So they bring the national caseload to 12,653, including 282 deaths. 35 of the new cases came from Seoul and the nearby cities and towns, which have been at the center of COVID-19 resurgence since late May. So 12 others were linked to the international arrivals. Australian health officials are expecting more cases of COVID-19 as hundreds of nationals return from overseas to begin mandatory quarantine. And so this came out of USA Today, Associated Press. And so this is basically about COVID-19. This is what this video is about. And so it showed you slides of what some people are doing around the world in terms of, social distancing, some of the signs that have gone up, some of the people that are aware of what's happening. It hasn't gotten any better. Here in Los Angeles, you see some people are wearing masks. A lot more people are wearing masks now that they know it's spreading and the numbers are larger than before. But you saw where people, when they were reopening businesses, people were starting to get really relaxed, as if they didn't have to worry anymore. Things were under control. I believe they were getting mixed messages when they were hearing that they were trying to slowly reopen the economy, and now you're hearing stories about people becoming infected, and the numbers are growing left and right. And so it's not really gotten any better. And most of the articles are a reflection of some of the newer things that are happening in society, in terms of, how people are faring with it, in terms of politics and what have you. There's been warring back and forth. There's also been racial discord, which I've noticed. There's been people that have been killed. Um, there's been protesters that have come out and tried to speak out on some of the injustices, and some places are trying to work things out, and others aren't really receiving the message as well. Recently, what I've noticed is that Donald Trump, he put out an executive order to protect, instead of the people being protected, and we're like people that are casualties of this war with this virus. And also, not only a war with the virus, but some of us have a war with just society, existing. As Black Americans, we have several threats. People who are poor also are threatened by losing their homes, losing what little they do have because they've lost their jobs. People have lost businesses. I've been seeing that happening left and right. There's some stores that are closing. I mean, by the dozens. There are stores, there are businesses that are closing as a result of a lot of things that are happening. Because for number one, initially, I believe they opened too soon. Not everybody was following the guidelines. They were getting too relaxed about the reopenings. Then you have these people who are really persistent about their constitutional rights, and they didn't want to wear masks. And we don't know if any of those people could have been sick and been spreading it to 10 and 13 and 20 other people. And so that causes things to have to actually close. It backfires. And so now what we're dealing with is whether Trump's going to, he says he's running again, but seeing that some people are not that encouraged about him being a president for a second term. Some people, however, are encouraged because they feel he represents a dominant class of individuals. So there's been some people who want to keep reopening things despite people that are being sick. If you see where you see some of the articles, if I'm just scrolling down, it says surge in coronavirus cases due to new spread, not increased testing. It also says North Carolina faces calls to continue reopening even as COVID cases are, and you can tell it remains in this second phase of reopening plan after hitting a new high of hospitalizations. The hospitals are starting to become overwhelmed. Coronavirus swift and dangerous turn in Texas cases, say governor. So, you can go on and on down the list. It isn't really getting any better. It has actually grown worse. I feel like it has a lot to do with these quick reopenings. And these people that also have been having these large gatherings, they've been going to these huge parties, and they're, stressing that they are, really persistent about not wearing protective coverings, and they may not even know if they're ill. They may have the symptoms even, and they just really don't care. And so it puts a lot of people at risk, and so it's backfired just as I thought it would do. And so now we're at this here, and we're only in the infancy stage, is what they're saying. 500,000 people have now died from COVID-19 worldwide. And so this is really, really astronomical numbers right here, if you ask me. And it looks as though it's not slowing. And so what I'm saying to you is, though, that I feel like it's, from what I've heard, from what I've seen thus far, it doesn't look like it's going to get any better before it gets worse than what it is now. And so I don't know how soon they will come up with any medication But I'm also hearing the skepticism in that people don't feel safe. They don't have a lot of trust in some of these organizations with the medicine and pharmaceutical company. They feel like a lot of people are just in it for the money, and they're really making money off of people being sick already now. And so to make medicine, is it really going to help, or is it just going to put people in more of a worse situation than they already are in? Are we going to have a nation or a world of just ill people that carry this virus? I also did read something where they said it could possibly burn out or morph into something else, but it doesn't look like that's happening anytime soon, at least not right now. So I don't know. I was very disappointed in social media because there's a lot of videos that are floating around about different theories about some of the racial incidences that have been happening around the world, here, or at least in the U.S., some of the more evident situations that are before Black Americans here in this country. And so I'm Black, and I'm not afraid to say it. And so I take offense when people troll my videos and they get offended because I'm reading an article, and then they flag the video because I'm expressing merely an opinion, which I haven't gone out and said that I was going to, do any physical bodily harm to anyone. But yet, because I'm expressing an opinion, which I'm entitled to, which I've seen many videos of people expressing real nasty opinions, and their videos are never striked or taken down. I just thought that was really wrong, and it was a hit below the belt. The thing is that I'm not really surprised anymore about some of the attempts that people make to try to be distracting or to try to be discouraging. Also, I did get a chance to look at some videos. Now, I wanted to say, I was going to respond to something. There's also these videos where you'll see other Black people who maybe, and certain ones will say that they're Republicans. And I don't believe that all Republicans are doing this. So it's not Dems versus Republican type of thing. But what I have seen is misinformation, that just as we have Black people, certain ones, I'm not saying it's all, that I'm full aware that there are Black people that there's some that have money, that have acquired money, and they don't really have the best interests in other Black Americans. They're not looking out for the well-being of all Black Americans as if they're Black. They are more about the money. They're more about self gratification, and if they can get paid to say anything negative about other Black people, even though they themselves are Black, they will do it. And so we had that in history, and I'm sure that there were Black slave traders who they were about the money. And just as we have people today that are about the money and not about their own culture of people and what they're doing to their own culture of people, we have the same thing today. So I don't discount that. There has been Black slave traders, and I'm going to admit that. But I will say this, on a large scale, it wasn't so much about the race, it was more about the money. It was about greed, and it was about, I'm going to get mine. And we still have those type of people today. We have people who will do anything for the money as long as it's gratifying them and forget everybody else. And that is the way we have seen in some of these videos, where people will post videos about other Black Americans, even though they are Black themselves, saying that, oh, we need to not be emotional as Black people. There were Black slave trade, like we're a bunch of dummies. Like we don't know that. Yeah, we know that there's black people who don't give a hoot about their own culture. They're self-hating. We realize that. And we realize that in history there were people like that all they thought about was the money. But they didn't obsess as much on race as a dominant class of white people who were white supremacists did. They didn't put up all of these black codes and these laws of Jim Crow. They didn't go and burn down Tulsa, Oklahoma, the Black Wall Street, and Durham and places, and just destroy businesses and make it so that black people couldn't advance in wealth. That didn't happen from black people per se that just wanted the money, because they were actually in a situation where they weren't able to get any money because they were included in that class of people that were less than. And so we know that we have Uncle Ruckuses. We, as in people, are smart enough to know that we have people just like in the movie Django, where you see they work under the master and they carry the whip, and they're worried about the master more than they are about people that look like them and that are struggling like them, because their concern is, I'm going to have something to eat and a place to sleep and forget the rest. I'm just concerned about my own well-being and forget everybody else as long as I do the evil bidding of the master. And so we know we still have those people among us. So we don't need you, and you know who you are, to tell us that, oh, there were black slave traders. Like that's going to convince white people to use that as a justification to say there were black slave traders as there were white slave traders. There is a difference here. There's a difference. The difference between the two is that they didn't create all these statutes. They didn't create all these laws. They didn't segregate whole entire neighborhoods and communities. They did not put redlining into a whole generation that has caused people to be behind economically today. And so that's the difference based on skin color. They didn't do phenology, where they had a theory of Darwinism and phenology, where they basically took people's skulls and, compared them to say, oh, this person is an intelligent being because they're more superior in race. And then these are the people at the bottom because they resemble gorillas or apes. That wasn't black people that did that. That was white people who were about white superiority and white supremacy that did that. So we're not stupid. Not all of us are as dumb as we may seem to you, but you obviously have not read enough into history, or you're just really just doing the work of the master. You just have another way of doing it by using politics to better your situation as you think you're doing, but yours will burn out. It will backfire just like all the others have done. Your time is soon to be up because you're just worried about you and getting money in your pockets. And so we know there's a lot of corrupt people in the world, and they can come in all shapes, sizes, genders, and colors. We are full aware of that. And so we know, like I said, let me repeat this again, there's a lot of Uncle Ruckuses and Ruckettes. We know there are some women that are like that. And we know they're in politics, and they have podcasts, and they set up shop, and they're getting paid to say what they're getting paid to say. And as soon as that burns out, you won't see or hear of them ever again. And some of them are going to fizzle out a lot quicker than others. I'm already seeing that happen. And we know that we have a rise of buffoonery going on. So let's make no mistake about it. So during a time where you have 500,000 people that have died of COVID-19, whatever this crazy disease, and you have all these people that are panic buying, on all these people that are running around on all levels. They don't know whether they're going or coming. You have all these different personalities and all these different politics coming out and opinions and groups. In the end, we all are in the same globe and we're all suffering something. We're all going through something at some point. But to sit up here and we know what we saw in videos, we know we saw the family crying because they lost a loved one, and we've seen many families crying because they lost a loved one for the same type of violence. We know what is going on. There is a racial war going on as well. So let's make no mistake about it. And so if you don't like me saying that and being honest about that, then you need to go look at another video that isn't telling the truth, because it ain't going to tell the truth if it ain't telling what's really happening. And so you must not really be black. Put it that way. If you don't see and open your eyes to see what the hell is going on. And so this right here, all these people that are dying, a lot of them, they have either had diseases that were pre-existing diseases, or they were elderly people, or they're living in poverty, or they're in cramped conditions, or they're in some what they call third world country or situation where the medical system is not that advanced. And so there's a lot of things that are going on. There's a lot of fear, like I said in previous videos. I don't see anything that I've said that is really wrong. I'm not running around threatening people's lives. And I'm not going and saying that people that are being killed, oh, that didn't happen. Those videos that people are doing that, they need to take those videos down, because that is not helping anybody at all. Not during a time like this. People are losing their lives. They're losing their homes. There are people that are willing to die because they have gotten to their wits' end about this racial discord and all of this white supremacy. We have seen people even having parades where they're holding up their flags. People are forcing poor people to go back to work because they don't have to go out and subject themselves to being sick. Then we've seen photos of people having huge parties and being defiant because they've got all this money, but it's backfiring because the same mentality of privilege that a certain group of Americans have always had, they feel threatened because they're not able to do the things that they want to do. And so they're getting sick now too because they want to be defiant. They're putting themselves in a vulnerable position, which is also putting others in vulnerable positions. So I'm going to let this video go. What are your comments? I don't see it getting any better. So I'm going to let this video go because I think a lot of things are going on and it isn't going to get any better before it gets worse. I'll say that again. There are people that are scrambling to find vaccines that will try to stop some of the spread of this, that will at least slow it, But who knows what's going to happen? These are developing stories as we go. We hope that things will get better. I'm wishing that things will get better, but the way the path of it, the course of it is going, and all this back and forth with different individuals is what is pretty much an indicator of what's going to happen. And it has already showed itself in an ugly way. And so I will say this, what I do know, there's going to be more protests. There's going to be more anger. You're going to see more episodes. There's probably going to be more people that are going to die. And there's going to be more businesses that are going to fall off. And they're going to lose a lot of money. And a lot of Americans are not going to need help. A lot. And a lot of people have been patient. Their patience are wearing thin. And this is what you're seeing. So anyway, with that being said, I'm going to let this video go. It's just sad, but this is reality that we're all living in. And so I want to say this before I go: like, comment, subscribe, and thank you for listening. And I want to add here before I go that you have to allow people to share their opinions without feeling some type of way sometimes. I mean, I listen to people even if I don't agree with everything they say, but what is really bothersome is to have tragedies happen and people to say that they didn't happen. I think it's really wrong. That I find to be damaging. That's not an opinion. That's somebody that's really stirring the pot. So I'm going to let this go. So thank you for listening. Stay safe.